we'll say, okay, what do we know about this person? Is there any reason we wouldn't want to have our school named for this person?
Private philanthropy accounts for billions of dollars in science funding every year. Some analyses estimate it provides at least 10 to 20% of research funding at universities. After Epstein's crimes came to light, some universities strengthened policies for investigating donors, but there's no universal reporting system for these gifts. Legal requirements around disclosures are limited.
One of the really massive failings with philanthropy is that because it has so little transparency, it doesn't generate the scrutiny that it deserves as a significant form of power in a society.
Rob Reich, a professor at Stanford University, studies the impact of philanthropy. He says it's pretty common for people to use this system to rehabilitate their reputation.
All the time, all the time. I mean, Epstein just seems egregious in part because there's no political or social constituency for pedophiles, so no one's about to stick up for him.
Reich points to the Sackler family, the former owners of Purdue Pharma, whose marketing of the opioid painkiller OxyContin helped fuel the opioid crisis. The family donated heavily to universities and scientific institutions. Reich says one thing that would help mitigate the use of the system to obfuscate bad behavior, requiring private universities to disclose exactly who is giving money and how much.
There should be public transparency about the person or the foundation, the amount, and what the donor restrictions or intent were.
Reich acknowledges there's no form of, quote, pure money. He says there could be a circumstance in which a donor committed a crime, served time, and offered a donation as a kind of atonement.
Universities should shoulder the responsibility of making transparent their own donor policies so that a richer public discussion can happen about this and we can find our way to, some reasonable set of norms.
After all, he says, this kind of philanthropy is not just a donation to the institution. It's a gift to the public in the name of science. Katie Riddle, NPR News.
Primary voting in Illinois closes later today. Voters are deciding who will win the hotly contested Democratic primary to replace U.S. Senator Dick Durbin, who is retiring. From member station WBEZ in Chicago, Mariah Woolfel reports.
In the blue state of Illinois, frontrunners for the Democratic primary race for the U.S. Senate have all shaped their campaign around a common enemy.
The chaos of Donald Trump.
Under Donald Trump.
Stand up to Donald Trump.
That's Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, Congresswoman Robin Kelly, and the state's Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. They agree on the challenge, but they're attacking each other over who's best for the job. Stratton paints herself as the progressive choice and slams Krishnamurthy for taking some campaign contributions from Trump donors.
That is not the example of somebody who's going to stand up to Donald Trump and fight for all of our communities.
Krishnamurthy says he donated a portion of that money to immigrant rights groups. The more moderate Krishnamurthy has fired back at Stratton, who has vowed not to take direct money from corporate interest groups, but has done so in the past. Speaking at a debate on Fox 32 Chicago,
she's not taking corporate money through the front door of her campaign, but it's coming through the side door, the rear door, the garage.
Kelly falls between the two politically, but has largely stayed out of the fray. In her latest ad, she pushes a TV off a table that was showing attack ads of her opponents.
Juliana Stratton.
Raja Krishnamurthy.
Oh, hell no. My opponents want to attack each other while we struggle to survive.
Roughly $50 million has flowed into the Senate race and 4 House primaries, mostly from groups representing AI, cryptocurrency, and pro-Israel interests. That's according to a WBEZ and Chicago Sun-Times analysis of federal campaign filings. Veteran Democratic consultant David Axelrod notes, money like this is hard to trace.
We have a kind of Wild West fundraising deal where you just can make up organizations and pour millions of dollars into them and intervene in races.
Political insiders will be watching just how effective the spending blitz has been after polls close later tonight. For NPR News, I'm Mariah Woolfel in Chicago.
This is Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Michelle Martin.
And I'm Martinez.
Good morning. This is meteorologist Russ Murley with your WTJX local forecast. This is Tuesday, the 17th day of March. Sunshine, partly sunny at times. There's a 30% chance of a shower with temperatures in the middle to upper 80s this afternoon. Easterly winds at 10 to 20 will be gusty. Showers likely to nighttime lows in the middle to upper 70s. Tomorrow, sunshine returns, upper 80s to near 90. Isolated showers, middle to upper 70s tomorrow night, and it'll be a partly sunny sky with isolated showers on Thursday, temperatures in the middle to upper 80s. Rip current risk will remain elevated at area beaches today, so as always, take care if you're headed into the surf zone. This is meteorologist Russ Murley.
WTJX 93.1 Charlotte Amalia, your NPR station in the Virgin Islands. The views and opinions expressed on Analyze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters.
And good Tuesday morning, and welcome to another edition of Analyze This here on your NPR station in the U.S. Virgin Islands, WTJX FM 93.1, with yours truly, Neville James. Beautiful March day here in Paradise. It's St. Patrick's Day, so happy St. Patrick's Day. And of course, you know, they got we're talking with the weather service in San Juan yesterday. They got Patronales and Loaiza down in Puerto Rico today, so hoping they have some fun down there. Let's get right to it. We've got Miss Denise Lake from the University of Virgin Islands, the Summer Bridge Program, here in the studio. Good morning, Miss Denise Muller Lake. How are you?
Good morning.
Get closer to the microphone. Pull the microphone up to you, so we're good.
You can hear me now?
Oh, yes. I could hear before, but for the audience, you know. How you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me on the show today.
Second appearance?
Yes.
When I see this Lake, I keep saying, who this Lake? I know you're Muller. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So I apologize for that. How you been?
I can always be a Muller.
Yes. But it's a lake. It's a lake.
Yes, a lake.
It's a lake. So we good. Yes. Everything good?
Yeah, I'm doing okay.
That's good. Last time I saw you, we were traveling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How's Mom?
She's good.
She doing good?
Yes.
When we talk to her, tell her I send my love. Same farm to the end. So, UVI. How's the university?
Well, university is going good. I am an academic advisor with the Center for Student Success. And we are the advisors that the first advisors that incoming students see. We work with the students their freshman and sophomore year, helping them prepare for their upper level courses and kind of guiding them into, the classes that they need to take.
How'd you get there?
How I get to UVI?
Yeah. I know you went to Michigan State, right? Central High?
Yeah, Central High.
Michigan State.
Michigan State.
How you get to UVI?
Well, I've always wanted to work in higher education. And when I moved back home, I decided that, I'm going to try and see if I can get into the university. I think working with college-age students, I think is really excited because we have a lot of students that really, they're first generation college-going students, and I think everybody needs somebody to support them. There's no one that is successful that didn't have somebody behind them. Mm-hmm. So what we do is try to help these students prepared for making the world, their way into the world. We have a lot of students that never were, interested in academics. And so when they come to UVI, it's an opportunity for them to kind of explore and see things and do things that they'd never done before, and we hope to capture those students so that we can keep them there and help them to move on.
No, you are a student athlete. If my memory serves me correctly, you were a track star. You could have hum, or we just said locally, you could have scanned, right? What about that aspect of it?
What do you mean?
Well, athletics. You're on the St. Croix campus, a lot of the athletics is pretty much based on the main campus over in St. Thomas. You know what I'm saying? So, what about that? You could also provide, some mentorship and some guidance as it relates to athletics. You went to a Big Ten university. You didn't go to a small university. You went to one of those big universities up in, I think it's East Lansing, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so what about that? Talk a little bit about that.
Well,
that potential.
I can't speak too much on the athletics part, especially because I'm on the St. Croix campus, and we really
In other words, do you want to? What about getting into that potentially?
Getting into the athletics?
Yeah, if something came up and you could provide that, that background, that history, that experience. Could you say you're into student learning, which is awesome? But you are an athlete.
Yes, I was an athlete. But what I would suggest is, first of all athletes need to focus on academics. And you see that all the time. Even when I went to college, where a lot of athletes come in and they want to play sports, but they've never really focused on academics, right? So what I would tell students, even if they want to, go into to athletics, first of all, they need to contact the athletic directors and on the St. Thomas campus. And if they call me, I guess I could get the information for them. But we see a lot of athletes all the time that go to college and they aren't necessarily prepared for the academic work of college. So for me, even though I'm a former athlete and I love athletics and sports, I focus mainly on when they come in and getting them prepared to do further studies. So if they want to have the information, they could contact, the St. Thomas campus and the athletic department. I can't speak so much for athletes, but what I do is for the UVI athletic program, I would let students know that, athletics isn't everything. It's a good focus. And I think we deal on, health and whatever. Athletes are very healthy. They make sure they follow a lot of routines so they can maintain their health and stuff like that. But when all is said and done, they came to UVI to get an education and get a degree. And we see a lot of times where, students don't get to that end. So one of the things that we're doing is we're really trying to help them do that, especially in our area. Like I said, we deal with the freshman and sophomore students. So we have students that come in and they're not really sure what they want to do or how to go about it. And that's why you have the advisors of the Center for Student Success. Because I've seen students come in and they only want to take the courses that they like. They don't want to take math, they don't want to take English, and they don't realize that these are the courses you're going to need. They're the foundation for what you need to go on to your degree. So it's, I'm all about the first and second year.
The reason why I brought that up, is just so that the public is aware of the fact that you do have a background as a student athlete, right? We're aware of the facts. Like 1 out of every 50,000 students become successful in sports, right? When you look at the grand scheme, right?
Yes.
But the reality is that you out of that ratio, a lot of them aren't successful in life because maybe they didn't take the academics serious. Number one. Number two, maybe there were predators out there who were misleading them, telling them do this, do that, invest your money here, and then the next thing you know, they got to take them to court because the money, something went wrong, right? So the little things like that, right? We tend to lose focus of. Another thing, track and field, right? You are a track star, right?
Yes.
Virgin Islands, you made the Virgin Islands team.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Are you aware of the fact that we have a track star from the Virgin Islands right now at the University of Georgia? Have you seen her? Have you seen clips of her? What's your take on Michelle Smith?
Yes, and I've known her since she was younger.
Okay.
When we lived in Michigan, they lived in Michigan as well.
Oh, okay.
So, and I know her dad,
Keith
Smith, yes, and I ran with his sister.
Okay.
Hazel. So I am very aware, and I'm very proud that we have an athlete, from here. She's a very hardworking, athlete. Her whole family. I mean, they excel in track and field, and I'm happy that she's, making these strides and making us proud.
We also got a young lady from Tortola, Adisha. I think her name is Adisha Haj. She won the 200 indoor, set a record.
Oh wow!
Yeah, last week. So both of them actually went. They did it last year at this prep school, Monteverde, I think it is, in Florida. They both attend Georgia, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's a whole different world from when you were in school. They got NIL money and all kind of thing. You know, that's that's significant. And it's actually impacting a lot of team sports where you have like football and basketball where they have these big TV contracts, so their buddies out there and all that stuff. So the managerial, I don't want to say professional life of it, even though that actually is how it used to be when we had amateurs and professionals. But the managerial aspect of being a professional, so to speak, actually is taking place at the college level now.
Yeah, it is. But like I said, my focus right now is the students we have here. What I will say though, I think a lot of these athletes, even though they might have won a future in professional athletics or stuff like that, a lot of them come to colleges and to get scholarships, right? That's how they want to pay for their education. So it's like,
but that's for something in return for the athletes, right? For the academia, that's about your educational excellence.
Yeah, but a lot of students, they have no other way to get to college. I mean, college is expensive. And so they come to college. So some students are literally, they just come to get their education, pay for it, and move on in their profession. But I would tell athletes all the time is like, have a plan B.
Correct.
Have a plan B. Like you said, not everybody is going to go to the NBA or whatever. There's so many things that you have to look at. Even the best players that we have here still have to compete with the other students in the States. So have a plan B, if it doesn't work out. And we know that athletes, their careers are short. They're not, it's very rare you see an athlete have a lengthy career. So, do your plan B and work on something that you have, you can maintain a career. Look at your majors, because all majors aren't created equal. And you make sure that it's something that when you leave college, you can support yourself and support your family and stuff like that. When I deal with students, I always ask them, I have students that come in, right? They want to do a degree in medicine. They want to be a doctor or a lawyer, right? I ask them, okay, so you're here in the criminal justice program or whatever because you want to go on to be a lawyer. Well, do you know the steps that you need to do that? Do you like writing? You like reading? A lot of them tell me, no, I just want to be a lawyer because I like arguing and whatever. Well, there's more to that than being a lawyer, right? So we have, and even when I went to college, when I went to college, I had these high ideals or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But I think they need to make sure that they understand what they need to do.
You always wanted to be an educator?
No, actually, my background is psychology.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a master's in counseling psychology.
Okay.
So this was a easy transition for me. And that's why I tell students too, right? Just because you have a degree, don't mean you're going to work in that field. My brother has a degree in physics. He was interested in aviation, and he hasn't done that. He's now working in IT. So we want to make sure when students come in, they look at their options, right? We have like the animal science program we have at UVI in the School of Agriculture. If you talk to any of those students, they will tell you that they want to go on to be a veterinarian, right? Veterinary medicine is medical school.
Correct.
So when you're preparing for that, you have to do the same, have to look at the same qualifications that you would for just regular medical school.
Dr. Dr. Chabot, who passed away recently, he actually went to school to be a vet and ended up being a medical doctor.
And I tell students, like I have students telling me, my parents want me to go to med school. right, to medical school. I'm like, you could go to veterinary school too. But I think students have to know how to prepare themselves. Like, say for vet school, right? It's a medical school. You need to have at least a 3.0 GPA at least
To be considered.
to be considered. So if a student doesn't meet that requirement, there are other options. Like one of our professors at UVI, she's not a veterinarian. She has a PhD in animal nutrition. So I like them to explore their options all the time. And I tell students that because you never know where it will take you. You can have a degree in psychology. There's so many things that you can do. You can work in mental wellness. You can work in industry. There's so many things that you can do. So I'm happy that when I see the students, the freshman and sophomore year, I get to help them kind of decide where they're going to go. Because a student that comes in, like in our dual degree program, right? You get a degree from UVI in applied mathematics, and then you go to your partner school to do your engineering requirements. I had a student tell me the other day, he took calculus and he was like, how much more math I have to take? This a lot. I was like, no, you're in a dual degree program, and you're getting a degree in math as well. So one of the things that I do with students too is I look at the degree plan, or the paradigm as we call it, for them to, because he didn't know that. And his goal was to become an engineer. Well, look at what you need to do to become an engineer. If you want to go to medical school, you have your 4 years of undergrad, or however you do have to have your bachelor's degree. Some of them don't know they have to go 4 years to medical school. They're not thinking that after medical school, you have residency, which is about another 3 years. And once they hear that, they're like, what? I'm going to spend 11 years trying to get this degree. They don't realize that. But if they realize that, or they're taught that, or introduced to that early on in the educational process, they could plan and see, well, I don't want to be a doctor because I don't want to spend 11 years. Or I can do something else. I could be a physician assistant. I could go into nursing. There are different ways that you can do, but I always recommend that students look at other options, because we know when you come to college, a lot of people that come to college, and what their major was, my major when I went to college was biology. I'm not a biologist. I'm not a researcher. I chose to go into psychology. So there's so many options, and I really, I'm really careful with students, helping them to kind of look at the stuff. I had a student the other day. She came to my office, and when I talk to students, especially when we're getting registered, I help them to look at the degree plan to see how far they've gotten. Because, sometimes when I was in college, when I had my degree plan, I would highlight the courses that I took for that semester, so I had a visual record of what I've done and where I'm at. And she said, Miss Lake, you showed this to me the last time I was there. I said, I'm going to show it to you every time because you need to see where you're at. And we need to look at things like, do you have to retake a class? Because we have students that come in too, and I want to get out in 4 years. That's what I want to do. It's not that easy, and I tell students, you might have to retake a class. For the major courses, for the most part, you would have to have a C or above in your major courses. So if you got a C minus, like in a business class, you'd probably have to take it over. So think about that. All classes aren't offered every semester. We have classes like our intro to biology class. It's done in 2 sections. 141 is taught in the fall, and then the other one is taught in the fall. So if you don't take the first one in the fall, you can't take the one in the spring.
Correct.
So that sets you back.
That's a prerequisite in order to get to the spring class.
So there's so many things that students need to consider. And I tell them, don't worry about getting out fast. It's how you do it.
Let me stop you right there. We'll take a break. We got Denise Lake here. We'll come back and talk about the details for the 2026 UVA Summer Bridge Program.
St. Croix. Nonprofits are the backbone of the U.S. Virgin Islands, with deep community knowledge and a history of stepping in, especially during times of crisis. Bank of St. Croix is committed to supporting their mission with a community investment checking account, helping nonprofits earn interest with no monthly service fee and no minimum balance. For information, visit bankofstcroix.com. Bank of St. Croix is proud to support public media in the Virgin Islands.
This March 26th, the stage is set. Startup Battle USVI returns to St. Thomas for a high-energy night where Virgin Islands founders compete live for $100,000 in investment capital. Free to attend, free to witness history in the making. Hosted by the UVI Research and Technology Park, the University of the Virgin Islands, and Southern Equity. This is the territory's biggest live pitch competition, where the next generation of VI innovators steps into the spotlight. Watch the finalists pitch live. Feel the pressure, then the moment. Who walks away with a total of $100,000 in investment? Be there to find out. And bring in the vibes. Crugiano and Pompa, live in the building. March 26th, 6 p.m. UVI Eldridge Blake Sports and Fitness Center. RSVP now at uvirtpark.net/startup battle. Startup Battle USVI 2026. Innovation lives here.
WTJX is underwritten in part by Cost You Less, your local warehouse retailer offering a wide variety of grocery items, bulk size everyday essentials, and household necessities that you can depend on to run your home or business. Located at 4300 Sign Farm, Christiansted, 340-719-4442, or costyouless.com. Cost You Less is proud to support public media in the Virgin Islands.
And we're back here to analyze this. We got Miss Denise Lake from the University of Virgin Islands, the Summer Bridge Program for 2026 is the topic. So let's get the dates and what we're looking at. First of all, what's the biggest needs for our students based on what you've seen with the Summer Bridge Program over the years? I know Miss Fleming.
Dr. Fleming.
Dr. Fleming, that was her baby.
Yes, it
right?
is.
I know you kind of taking it over.
Yeah.
You stole in the cradle and you got a baby them. So what's the biggest needs for our students based on what you're seeing with the Summer Bridge Program?
Well, I think one of the things that we've seen at just not UVA, but a lot of the other universities across the country found that a lot of the incoming students ended up in foundational remedial courses, especially math and English and writing. So it's not that the students don't have the potential. It just could be that courses weren't offered or what they had, what courses, how they did in courses. So a lot of them just aren't prepared. So what we do, the Summer Bridge Program, is about academic preparation. The students come in. It's a 5-week residential program, right? It's for graduating high school seniors. And we're helping them to make the transition from high school to college, because a lot of them think that college is just like high school, and it's not. But we look at academic preparation. So the students, when they're here for 5 weeks, they work on their math, reading, and writing skills because we want to strengthen their foundation. We also work on things like their college success skills, things like good study habits, time management, test taking. And all of this is set to prepare them to start college. And, one of the things we see a lot of time is retention. We have a lot of students that start, but by the end of their first year, they're struggling and then they just fall off. So programs like the Summer Bridge help our students to have a successful start. And when they do that, then the likelihood of them staying on and then going on to graduation, it increases exponentially. So that's what we're trying to do.
No, when we were going to school, we would take tests periodically, and a lot of it would focus on math and English. And you're saying that remedial classes are sometimes required more, and you say more than 50. Would you say more than 50% of our student population coming into UVI? There's some level of remedial courses being taken.
Yes.
So is that a reflection of the education curriculum leading into college? You know, at the elementary and secondary. I mean, I want us to be candid here, because literacy is a real issue that I like to focus on here, and I think in order for us to get where we need to get as a jurisdiction, we got to address our literacy issues, and we get the kids count data every year, and it's not where we need it to be, right? So talk a little bit about that from an educator's perspective.
Well, I think when you look at students coming into college, right? Students coming from all different schools, and let's be candid. All schools are not created equal, right? And even the information or the classes that they're offered may or may not prepare them. When I went to college, most of the science major, most of my classmates had taken calculus before they got to college. Central didn't offer calculus at the time.
Okay.
So I wasn't prepared, and it wasn't that I didn't have the potential. I just didn't have access to the information, and that happens a lot. When you have some students, I think in the public high schools, a lot of times students are taking their math courses, and they're finished by their second year, right? So they're not taking math again in their junior or senior year. They've already taken their math requirements. Well, that's kind of challenging when you haven't taken math in a year or so to come and start with math at college. And as we know, math and the sciences are not something the students will willingly take. It's very intimidating for a lot of students. So I tell students when they're taking the remedial courses, don't get caught up in that, because you would rather be placed, you don't want to be placed in a class that you're not ready for. And it's just a refresher. Just look at it as a refresher, right? You haven't taken math in a year or two. Let's do this and get to where you want to get. I think it's not always easy, and it's not a straight line to finish your degree. But if you really want to do this, we are working with you to try to get you there. And it's just not UVI. It's across the nation. It's across the nation that you're seeing students taking these foundational courses. When I went to college, I took my first semester, I took a foundational course in math, and I was able to move on after that. Now, was I disappointed? Yes. And we have a lot of students that come to UVI, they're high achieving students, and they're disappointed when they find out that they are placed in foundational courses. So I think we have to look not only at the preparation as well. The students need to know how and what they need to do to prepare themselves for coming to college. UVI is a test optional school, so you don't have to take the SAT or ACT for admission. But because UVI and other universities need to find a standardized way to kind of judge and test a student's level of knowledge, they use like the SAT and ACT for placement, because it's all about proper placement in your courses. You don't want to start off in courses that you're not ready for. So that's part of the thing that we do with the Summer Bridge program as well. We look at SAT scores. Now, SAT and ACT scores, now you don't have to take SAT or ACT to be eligible for the program. But we do look at that. So if a student took the SAT and had below a 520 in the math, that's automatic going to the remedial classes. If they took the SAT and if they went below a 560, that's automatic going to the remedial English and writing class. It doesn't say that the student is not, we don't want to take away from their achievements that they have in school, but we want to make sure they're prepared. Students don't realize, right, that what we're doing is, because they ask me all the time, why I have to take math, why I have to take communication, why I got to take English, I'm an engineering student, or I'm going to be a science student. Well, these are all prerequisites, and it's preparing you for your future job. Just because if you're an engineering student, you still have to write reports. You still have to be able to write and communicate. So, you know, we have a lot of our students don't take the SAT or ACT as a normally too. So like the ACT for math and for the English and writing, if you have below a 20 in either of those areas, you would go into the remedial classes as well. And I think part of it is just preparation. I mean, you have to know the content, but also knowing the test taking strategies when you're taking those standardized tests can help as well.
Program starts when?
Starts June 7th and ends July 11th. It's 5 weeks.
5-week program.
Yeah.
Okay. Which island are they on this year?
It's going to be on St. Croix this year. And I want to let people know that, you know, all the students from all of the school districts and the territory-wide are eligible to be in the program. Students who are in the St. Thomas, St. John school district, we will transport them to St. Croix to be in the program. And then we'll send them, we're able to transport them back to St. Thomas. You know, I think one of the things that I found with the Summer Bridge program, it's just like, you know, it's a start and it's like, you know, a test, you know, a review of what it would like to be in a college campus. A lot of our students don't. They're not going to live on campus. They live at home or off campus and would never get the opportunity to live in the dorms. So we have students come in, you get to live in the dorms. And I tell people all the time, college is a really good place to mature and become a little more independent. When you're in the bridge program, you have to get up in the morning to get ready for class. So we're not going to be the ones waking you up or whatever. And so students need to get, you know, get used to doing those type of things, working independently, studying independently, forming bonds with other students to do group work or group study, you know. And one of the things that, you know, students don't realize will happen, we have students from different schools, different islands, and they're potentially roommates. And most of the students, they still keep in contact with the students that they had with their roommate or who were in the program. You know, because a lot of students, they come and it's like, can I room with someone that went to my high school? We don't do it like that. We have to look at all the students that we have. And this program, last year, we had students from off island. We had students from Las Vegas, and we had a student from Atlanta.
Summer Bridge?
For Summer Bridge.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's... you know, so that was, and they're...
So we recruited them, or they found out about it on their own?
Well, they had applied to UVI.
Oh, okay.
And they had been accepted, and they got the information. So, and I tell students all the time, you don't have to be coming to UVI. We would hope that you're coming to UVI, but you don't have to be coming to UVI to be a part of the program. We just want to make sure all our students in the territory are prepared for when, you know, they go to college. But...
Did they actually attend UVI subsequent to the Summer Bridge?
No, they didn't.
They didn't? Okay.
Yeah, they didn't. But the students, some of the students are still in contact with those students.
Okay.
And I tell people, I think a lot of times we look at the states and think that their standards are higher, their students are better prepared. And yes, that happens a lot. But you had two students that came from the states, one from Las Vegas, one from Atlanta, that was basically... had the same level of preparedness that our students had, and they were able to, they needed to get the help that the program provided.
One of my listeners, Edwin Melendez from out of Puerto Rico, said English grammar and composition is very important for engineering, besides math.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So they are in agreement with you. So, as we talk about the 5-week period, you know, you get there, what are you looking at? This is about the college experience truncated over a short amount of time.
Yes.
It's 100% preparation, or is it, because in the case of Las Vegas and Atlanta, they came here. We don't know if it was a vacation, education window for them, or they wanted to know if they could deal with the summer heat, because as a whole, there's so many variables involved here, right? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, the thing about it, and even for, say, the students that came from the mainland, right? Students haven't been away from home.
Mm-hmm.
So here it is, you get to see what it's going to be like to go and be away from home for the first time. And believe it was just as challenging for the parents as it was for the students. Parents called because the kids had never been away from home. So that's a really good, a good measure.
Well, the Vegas student, I mean, they live in the desert, you know what I'm saying? So the heat shouldn't have been a problem for them. You know what I mean? During the summertime.
Yeah. Actually, it was. But because it's a
humidity.
It's a different kind of heat. Yeah. But one of the things that we look at for the program, right? It's a rigorous program. And so when you spend 5 weeks working on English, reading and writing and your math, and you do that for 5 weeks, you are more than ready when you come to UVA because you've done that. We hear people talk about summer melt, where they graduate or they go out for the summer, and all the stuff that they learn, it's a challenging, they have to kind of get moving with it again and being able to get caught up with those things. So we have the rigor set in. We also have the opportunity to earn a credit. So they can earn 1 credit from the freshman development seminar, which all the students take. And then we also do things like we have study hall. We have teaching assistants in the classrooms. We have study hall at night, not every night. And we have social activities for them. We don't want them to spend the whole 5 weeks just doing, academics. That's not how real college is, And all the
You've got Rathskeller or a student union building? Way big.
No.
You laugh if was the last time you hear the term Rathskeller? That's what we went to college. That's why I know it as. You know what I mean? We going to the rat. Yeah.
No, they have a rec center. They also have like a gym. So they have a lot of the equipment in there. Mm-hmm. So they can do that. We have the rec center. Where they can kind of hang out, our cafeteria, and the food is excellent there. So the program also, in addition to to giving them access to the dorms, which is free, everything is free, they also get to have meals. So they get 3 meals a day. So they'll be like a regular college experience for the students. And believe it or not, I mean, a lot of students, we had a student that struggled with getting up in the morning. She was like, well, I have to get up this early because you have to have breakfast if you want to be able to start class. Classes start at 8:30, right? So getting that means that you can't stay up all night talking to your friends and hanging out, because you have to be able to, and if you want to do that, you have to be able to get moving the next day. And we have the faculty, we have faculty that teach the classes. So these are people that the students will end up seeing when they start classes. And so it helps to kind of get them familiar with the faculty. And these faculty have worked with these students. They've worked with a lot of students over the years, so I think one of the things, in addition to the academic preparation, students get to learn about the expectations from the faculty, right? If you're not going to be in class, then you need to let the professor know that you're not going to be in class. I had a parent ask me about that. The student had don't
take a break. I want to start and I got to interrupt you.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about that experience with the student, right?
Okay.
We're talking with Denise Lake from the UVI Summer Bridge Program, and Kiva said, good morning, Auntie. She texts me. All right, so we'll take a break and be back right after this.
Center celebrates community on St. Thomas with its inaugural Spring Fling Block Party on Saturday, March 28 from 2 to 7 p.m. The event includes local vendors, food, beverages, live music, and mokojumbis. Family-friendly activities are scheduled throughout the afternoon, including a children's museum experience, soccer and sports zones, and video game stations. The Spring Fling Block Party takes place Saturday, March 28 from 2 to 7 p.m. at Niski Shopping Center. Proud to support public media in the Virgin Islands.
Traveling soon? Whether you're vacationing or visiting family, you might have a special food you want to take with you. Just remember, food containing pork cannot enter any part of the U.S. or even travel between the mainland and the U.S. Virgin Islands or Puerto Rico. That's because pork can carry African swine fever, a virus that's harmless to humans but deadly to the pigs we rely on for food. To help stop the spread, don't pack pork when you travel. You can learn more at www.usda.gov. That's www.usda.gov.
This is the WTJX-FM Community Calendar. Join Arton Frederickstead Inc. for Rhythms at Sunset, Friday, March 20th, beginning at 6 p.m. with music, poetry, food, and bar vendors in attendance, featuring different guest artists each month. 340-772-3550. And if you'd like your event aired on the WTJX Community Calendar, please send it at least 2 weeks in advance to news at WTJX.org.
I never thought I would be a ballerina.
And yet she became one. Welcome to the world of dance with prima ballerina Tyler Peck.
One of the most extraordinary ballerinas in the world.
Discover how she relates to dance, from early success to coming back from a career-threatening injury, and then becoming a choreographer.
The jump's good, so we'll keep it.
Yeah. Enjoy Tyler Peck, Suspending Time.
What is life without dance?
On Great Performances.
Tune in March 27th at 10:30 p.m. on WTJX TV, Channel 12.
I'm back here on Analyze This, talking with Miss Denise Lake from UVI Summer Bridge Program. By the way, Wallace Williams texted me and said you would have been in Moscow in 1980.
Yes.
Yeah, you would have been an Olympian. Well, you were Olympian.
I was still an Olympian.
You didn't actually get to participate in the Olympics in 1980.
But I was chosen.
Yeah.
I would have represented the Virgin Islands.
What happened in 84 then? I'm making it in LA.
By then I was in college.
You were in college?
I was doing getting ready for my career and stuff like that. So sort of like.
Because you graduated in 81.
Yeah, from my school,
From Central in 81. So
yeah.
you were heading into your senior year at MSU, right? Any regrets about that, man? Because that would have been nice to see you dusting.
Well, I mean,
your competition. Because
was I disappointed about 1980? Yes, I was. But I mean, things happen, and athletics wasn't everything. I went to get my degree, and so I was able to start my career. And I am thankful for my opportunities that I had as an athlete and representing the Virgin Islands.
Did the Pan Am Games, 79?
I did the Pan Am Games. I was the youngest one.
Yes, I won.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I was the youngest one on that team. So I am, I'm always.
Do you talk about your experiences when you talk to the children, or do they care? Do they care to know, or you want that part of your life to be hidden, and you don't want them to know? Because here I am exposing you as this.
They think I'm old.
This great, this great athlete, because that's what you were. You know what I'm saying?
Any adult that they see, they don't see me as an athlete. They don't think that I ran track. All they see is Miss Lake, the advisor. But I mean, I do talk of it from time to time.
But you were a national champion. You were the fastest woman in the Virgin Islands in the late 70s and early 80s. Denise Molla at the time. Now Denise Lake.
Yeah,
I'm a sports junkie. You're not gonna restrict me. You know what I mean?
I did impart that kind of the information and the love of sports to both of my sons. But I don't. Like I said, I don't really.
That's a family thing. Jeff could have run. I remember Jeff used to run for Mandianos. Used to be the PE teacher at Lumaco School. And next thing you know, I see Jeff running leave man down. Remember we used to run at Martin Marietta, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think what I do tell students though, and I really
because you brought up a good point. I don't want to cut you off, but you brought up a good point. It's not 100% academics. There's a social life to being a college student, right? And that requires some decision making. outside of the classroom. The classroom is about education, right? But the college life is the transition window between mommy and daddy taking care of you until you're 17, 18, to you now making half of the decisions, right? Until you get that paper, and then you get out in the professional world, you start earning your living, then you're making all the decisions. That's why this transition window, college, is so critical. Miss Lake.
I think
Mrs. Lake, I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's what I tell people, right? I said college is not about academics. So it's about, maturing. We help you develop not just academically, but professionally. And even, I would even say, socially as well.
Of course.
Because you have students that come to college, they're very shy. We had a student last summer that was very shy, young man that was very shy. And I was so happy and so proud to see his development to the end of the program. He was hanging out with the other students. He was talking to them. He didn't know anybody when he first got there. There was one person from his school. And so that's who he bonded with and stayed with. But by the end of the program, he was really interacting with the other students.
That's a good story.
It is. And I think I was saying before, in terms of the students learning about the expectations.
You were talking about the parent who called and all that stuff.
A parent called.
Yeah.
The student had a doctor's appointment. So she called and said, could you tell the professor that he has a doctor's appointment and make any arrangements that need to be made? I was like, that's not for me to do. I said, professor doesn't want to hear a parent calling them. The student was already 18, right? I said, that's for the student to talk to the professor, let them know that they're not going to be in class, and find out what they need to do, if there are any assignments and that type of thing to do. So the student was able to do that. And I think parents too, it's very difficult for some parents to let go. I mean, I'm a parent myself, and having your child who you had in your house for the last 18 years that you've done a lot for, having them go to college, you worry about them. Even if even parents that had students here from St. Croix, they were concerned about their students as well. They don't want them. They want to make sure that.
Well, that's a natural thing for a parent to.
It is.
To be concerned about the child and don't want the child to, don't want the professor or the program to think the child is doing what they want on this particular day. So I could understand why the parent would do that, but I like what you said. Part of the maturing, the maturity window of a student is for them to articulate for themselves and not have a parent articulating for them, right?
Yeah.
So I think what you were saying was, it is for the student to say, Professor, I have a doctor's appointment. I'm not going to be available, or I'm not going to make class, blah, blah, blah. And you would hope that the professor would be understanding. I don't see why the professor wouldn't have a problem with understanding. Well, it's a medical issue, right?
I tell students all the time, the key to success in college is communication with your professors, right? If you don't show up to class, the professor could only assume that you have no interest in the class or your education, right? Or you were sick or something. So you need to let them know what's going on. And that's, as a mature student or as an adult, you have to do that. You're not just going to not go to work. If you're going to be sick, you have to notify your boss. So it puts the responsibility on the students. I think one of the things that they find too is they're not used to the classes being spaced out. They're like, why all my classes can't be from 8 to 4 or whatever? So they have to, when they're looking at getting their schedules together, they need to look at that and say, well, you know what? I want my classes between 8 and 12 or whatever. So that's on the responsibility on them too, to make sure that they get the classes, how they need them, and when they need them. And so that's one of the things that we do in the Center for Student Success and with the Summer Bridge program. One of the perks is that you get to meet with your academic advisor before the incoming, the other students. So you get to get your schedule done. Because when they leave the program, they already have their schedule for the fall, right? So when you do your schedule early, you get the classes that you really want and the schedule that you really want. So that's a really good thing, because we have students that come in and they're like, I want to take my class at 9 o'clock. Well, it's full or whatever. you get to our students in the summer break program get to take that get that earlier. They also get a credit from their freshman development seminar course. So we have students that start UVI with a GPA of a 4.0 because they passed the FDS class. And so it's really it's a sense of pride for the students to be able to do that. And I am so when I see the students that were in the program last year and I see them on campus, when they came back in the fall, they were bringing their friends to my office saying, "Talk to Miss Lake." They had their schedules already. They were like, they were acting like they were sophomores on campus because they'd spend the 5 weeks doing that. And really and truly, because of how the program is structured and the rigor in the program, when you've done the 5 weeks, when you start in the fall, you're good to go. But I think students and parents need to understand, right? If a student is in remedial class, for a lot of students, they come in and they're taking math, reading, and English. So it's not like some students take one or the other. A lot of them are taking both. So these are classes that you have to pay for. They're not going towards your degree, and it takes time out from your education timeline. So you have students that will spend like a whole year doing remedial classes. So they're not getting into the college level courses until their second year. So for students who are interested in graduating in 4 years or whatever, that's something to consider. Also, so if you come to the program, right, and you take our program and you take the UVI placement test and you test into the college level courses, you start where you think, you start on time. You don't have to pay for the classes because we've paid for them. And you get to move on. And I think it's a sense for the students, they're a lot more comfortable because they feel like, now I'm ready for college. They may have they might be a little anxious about starting, but after doing the program, I think a lot of students, they're so comfortable. And I think, except for the one from Las Vegas, the two off-island students, everyone came back. Okay. They all came back. So that was a really good thing for us. And I want to tell parents too, college is expensive, so if you can have those, cut that 1 year off of the remedial classes, that's something that you don't have to pay. It's an expense because we're talking like, 12 credits, maybe your fall semester and 12 credits. Your spring semester, that's 24 credits you pay for. That don't go to anything or your degree. So it's something to think about in terms of the cost and your time. So imagine you could come to our program for 5 weeks, get prepared for college level courses where your peers are going to spend a whole year doing that. So the difference is I went to St. Thomas last week. They had an open house and I met a lot of the high school seniors. And, that's one of the things I turned to them and says, okay, guys, 5 weeks, you still have the rest of the summer to do stuff. But when your friends are taking remedial math and remedial English in the fall, you'd be taking something else. You'd be taking a college level course. So they're going to spend spring and fall and spring taking these courses. And so by the time you start, you're going to be like a year ahead of them. You're going to be where you wanted to be or what you thought you should, where you thought you should be when you came into college.
Details about the program again, and if students are interested or parents are interested for their children to be a part of the Summer Bridge program.
Okay, some of the eligibility requirements of course, you have to be a graduating high school senior. We ask that you write a letter, an essay telling us why you want to be in the program, how would this be beneficial to you. We want one letter from a school official. It could be a teacher or a counselor or another school official, talking about, what their thoughts are on you being successful in college. We want the most recent transcript. It doesn't have to be official, but we need to see your most recent transcript. And we also look at test scores, and you don't have to have taken the SAT or ACT to get into the program, like I said, But we look at those scores because, for instance, if a student got like a 600 on their math or a 600 on their English for the SAT, then they're automatically going to go into, college level courses. So they don't need to come to Summer Bridge to do that. So we kind of look at that to see where the students are, and also our students being in the program, they're prepared for the UVI placement test. And, we recommend the students take the placement test if they haven't gotten the scores they want on the SAT or just to see where they're going to be placed. And the placement tests, you have to pay for them. So if you pay for I think they're like $30 for the English and $30 for the math. UVI Cell, they administer the test. So if somebody is interested in the placement test, they'd have to contact UVI Cell. But so you've saved $60 as well. If you have, because our students are preparing for the UVI placement test. They take it last year. We had 80% of the students tested into college level English. And these are students that came in and would have been in remedial classes. We had about 70% of them tested out of the first level of remedial classes. So there are two sections, right? There's the one that they have in the fall and one they have in the spring. So those students came in and they were at the second level. So they spent one semester taking remedial classes, and in the spring they went right into their English and their math, their college level math. So that shaved a semester off of what they would do. And I think the program too also gives the students some confidence in because you don't know what it's like when you go to college. You're not sure how it's going to be. And even if you think you know what it's like, then, it's sometimes some students are more like, how can I handle this? How am I going to work, doing this? Can I really do this? And the program helps to give students that confidence. I mean, I see the students now on campus. They're always in our office all the time because once you're with the Summer Bridge, you are students, for life. I always, through their time at the university, I'm always there to help them. And we see our students, because we have a student right now that she will be taking, her college level courses. I think she was able to take one because she did exceptionally well on our students last year. I think we had about 34 students last year, and we had about 14 from St. Thomas. So I tell parents, especially the parents on, off island, I think they're super concerned about that. But we do have the students are supervised in everything that they do. So we have resident assistants or RAs that are on campus with the students, so they're supervised always. We have social activities as well, and we do some fun things with the students. We're not going to have them there doing, for their summer doing academics all the time.
Ms. Denise Lake, thanks for joining us this morning. Good luck with the summer program. Nice talking to you. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me. Oh, one more thing.
Hold on there. We'll take a break.
Okay.
And let you come back and wrap up at the on the back side of the hour. Okay? I want to run you out of the studio.
No,
we'll take a break and be back right after this.
The views and opinions expressed on Analyze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters.
This is meteorologist Russ Murley with your WTJX local forecast. This is Tuesday, the 17th day of March. Sunshine, partly sunny at times. There's a 30% chance of a shower with temperatures in the middle to upper 80s this afternoon. Easterly winds at 10 to 20 will be gusty. Showers likely tonight. Nighttime lows in the middle to upper 70s. Tomorrow, sunshine returns, upper 80s to near 90. Isolated showers, middle to upper 70s tomorrow night. And it'll be a partly sunny sky with isolated showers on Thursday. Temperatures in the middle to upper 80s. Rip current risk will remain elevated at area beaches today, so as always, take care if you're headed into the surf zone. This is meteorologist Russ Murley.
WTJX 93.1 Charlotte Amalia, your NPR station in the Virgin Islands. The views and opinions expressed on Analyze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters.
And we're back here on Analyze This, wrapping up a conversation with Miss Denise Lake from the UVI Summer Bridge Program. Ms. Lake, good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to remind and to inform the public that all the schools in the territory have received information about the program.
Mm-hmm.
All the counselors and principals have received, all of them, public and private, have received the information so they can pass that on to their students or to the parents as well. If a person wants to apply to the program, all they have to do is go to UVI's website and do a search for the Center for Student Success. And once you get to that page, the link will be there for you to just apply online. So, and we also have a student, an individual that's interested in the program, if they aren't able to access the website, can send an email to me. My email address is dlake@uvi.edu. So that's DLAKE@uvi.edu. And just put in a subject line 2026 Summer Bridge Program, and I will reach out to you and provide the information as well. So there's several ways that you can access the information.
And this is for students who have been accepted at UVI?
No. You don't have to have applied. You don't have to have been accepted to UVI to be in the program.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want students to know that we want our students from the territory to be, prepared wherever they go.
And what's the cap in terms of students?
Well, we'd like to get as many as we can, but last year we had I think between 32, 34.
Okay.
So we'd like to have at least that this year.
Okay.
So, yes.
Once again, don't be a stranger. Looking forward to talking with you about the education of our young people as they are the future leaders in the territory, and appreciate the work you do as it relates to student excellence at the University of Virgin Islands.
Well, thank you for having me. So I hope the public will reach out to me and take advantage of the program.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Good. That's
Thank
Denise
you.
Lake from UVI. You're welcome from the UVI Summer Bridge Program. Tell Dr. Fleming I said my love. Okay? And Mamito as well. Right? So we're good. What we're going to do is we're going to transition. We got a teen entrepreneur program with UVI Cell coming up now. Liza Margolis going to be calling, and I think Dr. Edwards going to be here as well. So looking forward to that conversation on this St. Patrick's Day edition of Analyze This. Yeah, man, that college experience ain't nothing like it. You know what I'm saying? I did 2 years at SUNY Old Westbury. I did a semester at UVI too. I also did 2 years at University of Miami, where I graduated in '87. I was just looking at our commencement exercise book online last week. I'm about there that I reminiscing, you know what I mean? and you see your name there. For the Bachelor of Arts and all that stuff, you see some of the students that you were in the university with. And look, it is something that is so, priceless. I mean, it ain't priceless when it comes to the money that your parents are forking out. You know what I'm saying? To see you, get that degree, right? With the seal. Right, we always used to let people know, right? Ain't no fake diploma. You know what I'm saying? You got a seal, right, to authenticate, that learning. And for me, it was always about going to a university on the mainland and coming back home. You know what I'm saying? And that, isn't necessarily the case nowadays because the economics are such that, UVI is now very attractive, free tuition, what have you. So that's what we're dealing with. Anyway, let's talk to our guest for the UVI Cell Teen Entrepreneur Program. We have both on the line. Nobody on the line right now? Okay, I thought we had somebody on the line. I saw somebody I called in. Oh, okay. Oh, Chin Carl? Morning, Chin. What's going on?
Good morning, my brother. Good morning to the Virgin Island. This is Virgin Island.
Yes.
All over the world.
Uh-huh.
Well, yesterday, for the weekend, we had problems in St.
Yeah, I got a text message. It come back on late last night.
12 o'clock, 12:03.
12:03. Tuesday morning. Technically Tuesday morning. 12:03 a.m.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but Saturday, they went out Saturday around 10 o'clock. Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
Blows, when you say blows. You know what I mean? And like you were saying the other time when you are on the governor, and they tell you that we don't need our own generator. We have a generator spot over here already, right? But some of the people that will live here, not we, but the cowboys were bawling that the generator will make too much noise. But when current go up, the noise was going on around St. with them big generator what they have by their house is a whole different story, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We had a backup generator in St. John. We had one called the Green Hornet.
The Green Hornet. Yeah, yo, I got a letter. I got a text message from one of my boys. There was an article from 1980, right? I'm gonna read it now. Hold on there. The partner sent this on me. Felt on St. John. And this was from August of 1980, right? And apparently, you were in St. Croix then, right? 1980, right?
Yeah, 1979.
Yeah. And it's a Daily News article, Power Blackout Felt on St. John, right? And they said the island of St. John was completely without power for 14 hours Tuesday and did not receive full service again until late afternoon. That was 1980, right? They said the power went out shortly after midnight, according to Public Services Commissioner and St. John resident Richard Joyce. At about 2 p.m., he said 2 small cables linking the island to St. Thomas generators were hooked up, thus providing electricity to parts of St. John. Later, the emergency generator number 7, the Green Hornet, was repaired, right? So this is 2026 we talking now, and this article is from 1980, 46 years ago, right? And
we had another generator called the Silver Arrow too,
Silver Arrow, okay.
After the Green Hornet.
After the Green Hornet.
They say they send the Green Hornet down Island, and they're still using it up to now.
That generator from all the way back then there down Island and walking now?
They're walking still, you see. But I don't want to spread the rumor.
Yeah. I'm going to check into that. We're really big on rumors on this show. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying. That's why I didn't want to.
Yeah.
That's what I say. I don't know. You understand? But that we get it. So he might give us money for our own generator in St. John,
Yeah, man. And look, everybody know me and the governor tight, you know what I'm saying? That's my guy, right? but we are in diametrical perspective, opposing views. We respect this because if the problem was identified coming out of Irma in particular, I will get slammed from Irma more than Maria, right? Even though Maria was bad because they had no roof then, right? And Maria was a lot of rain, right? So the damage was probably the same, right? And they identified, and I read the article from August 22nd, 2019, 2 generators, one for Cruz Bay, one for Coral Bay. And here we are in March of 2026, and we ain't got nothing to show for it. That reflects badly on us as a jurisdiction.
Yeah, like you say, right? The governor is your friend, right?
That's my guy.
But real people is real people.
I got call a spade. I go call a spade, man.
Real is real. We don't got a spot for the generator already. Yeah, I mean, the spot is done there. Later we gotta look for a spot for Cruz Bay. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
right there. All we gotta do is place it right there.
Now hold up there. When they bring on the silver arrows, they put it in the spot where Green Hornet was?
Yes, sir.
And where is the silver arrow now? They removed the silver arrow?
Well, you know, I visually impaired, so I don't know if it ain't working.
Okay. Yes, you tell me so.
So,
yeah.
But the spot's still there. So we're going to take that out and replace it. And let me tell you something, right? If part of our island got current, it's good because people from the other side could still come over here and like push up the...
Correct. But not the whole island, man. Oh, God, man.
The whole island is problem.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I can't support that. You know, under any circumstance. And I won't.
People could come from the other side to this side and come up with a cousin or a family until they get boost up again, I mean. But when the whole island out, that's a lot of trouble for everybody. Like if you got asthma and things, what you do your machine. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, has the administrator said anything? What's her name? Her name is Jones, right? I think it's Jones.
Kishima Jones, bro.
Yeah. Have you heard anything from the administrator? Any calling into any station to speak to this? Because that's what administrators are supposed to do.
Well, I can't say no because yesterday was out of power. My radio went there and up that sort. And that radio was a rechargeable battery. But said, you know, we got power so that when it's so that the battery could last.
But I was blazing on your behalf yesterday, man. You know, that's the first thing I did.
I hear you yesterday, man. I hear you.
You know what I'm saying? So that was painful. That was painful listening to my people them calling me and telling me how bad things was. You know, I didn't like to hear that. You know, so.
Well, that's why we love you. You're real.
Well,
you know,
I want fairness. You know, with respect to power generation for the entire territory. Now, when we had the table talk, and Malik, right? You know, Malik got roots in St. John as well, right?
So
all right. So he was talking about that, and it's really not limited to power. It's a lot of different things. You know what I'm saying? But the reality is, when I read the article, it articulated every reason why you need the generator. And it actually said in the article that the generator ain't supposed to provide power 100% of the time. So the cables, right? The cable to Randolph Harley, right, would be necessary as well. All they're saying is, in the event something happened in St. John, St. Thomas, at least St. John would have the ability to provide for itself in the interim.
But that's where we were long ago. Long ago, right? When something happened, down the water cable, whatever, they kick in the Green Hornet, the Silver Arrow, kick in. And then we have a man on standby and he's sleeping quarters down by the plant. So we had a man used to be there and stand by.
And
you know what I mean?
Provide the diesel and all that stuff. Yeah.
And to monitor the gauge, man. Forward, you know what I mean? He right there and stand by. And he got to be there all the time because, like you say, we get our power from our water cable You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
With the power coming on the water cable, when if St. Thomas got a destruction, that don't mean we have to have a destruction.
Mm-hmm.
We go kick in our generator, and at least some of the island will have power. You know, not the whole island out for days and days.
But not only that, right? It was a contract that they signed, you know. It's a contract that they had signed for them 2 generators, you know.
With FEMA?
Yeah, that's a contract. You know what contract be?
So what one come out of it?
I don't know, but I mean, you know, when
you can analyze it. You can analyze it, you know.
But here's what I'm telling you, right? If a contract was signed, right, that means that the contract needs to the contract needs to be executed, right? It was $2.7 million for 2 generators, so I guess 1,350,000 for each generator, right? To install, right? To buy and install, right? And it was 90% FEMA, 10% local match, and they identified the local match money already. You know what I'm saying? So you know, but I see an article here. Hold on there. You got an article here. They said WAPA still struggles to restore St. John power. Right? So your power came back on at 12:03 last night, midnight.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
But you know, it frightened me because, you know, this power going on and a few person getting up, you know, everything will go up.
Mm-hmm. That's the next thing too. But not only that, we were talking about this last night, right, at one of our spots. If the price was $2.7 million in 2019, that's not the price today. You know that price gone up.
Yeah, you talk about it.
Okay, the price of the price of everything. Yeah, the price of everything has gone up since then. You know what I'm saying? So, man, look. I want this to work, right? Carl Knight, right, is my friend, right? All of we around the same age, you know. I might be a little older than Carl, right? But the point that I'm making is this is our window for us to be leading, right? And I don't want any of us I don't want the territory to fail at any time, but I definitely don't want the territory to be failing the people of the territory during this leadership window for us, right? For our generation. You check what I'm saying?
Jack.
Yeah.